Have you ever wondered why the kindest souls often seem to end up alone? It's a paradox many of us struggle to understand. Those who give so much of themselves, yet end up feeling isolated. Anthony Hopkins, one of the most revered actors and thinkers, delves into this complex issue, offering profound wisdom that helps explain this phenomenon. In this article, we'll explore why nice people sometimes feel alone, the challenges they face, and how they can find peace within themselves while staying true to their nature. In this article, we will explore what it means to be a nice person today. Insights from Anthony Hopkins on loneliness and motivation. The challenges nice people face in relationships. Why nice people tend to be alone and the psychological factors behind it. Turning loneliness into personal growth and self-reliance. Finding balance in life and building meaningful connections. Defining nice people in today's world. Building off the last point, it's important to dive deeper into what we truly mean by nice people. Is being nice synonymous with being a doormat? Is it a form of weakness or strength? In today's world, where self-interest often trumps kindness, the line between being nice and being vulnerable is thin, and it's easy to get lost in the shuffle. Imagine this. You've always been the one to lend a helping hand, to stay up late talking someone through their problems, or to smile even when you're feeling down. You know the feeling, your heart is pure, your intentions are good, and you thrive on seeing others happy. Yet, no matter how much you give, you often feel like you're left behind, like your own needs and desires are constantly placed on the back burner. You might even start questioning yourself, am I too nice? Or, is there something wrong with me? Being nice isn't just about kindness or politeness. It's a way of living that often requires personal sacrifice. Nice people are usually empathetic, attuned to the feelings of others, and they find purpose in making the world a better place. But while their hearts are big, their boundaries can be dangerously small. Over time, they may start giving away so much of themselves that they have little left to offer. And, sadly, instead of being appreciated, they often find themselves overlooked or taken advantage of. A nice person doesn't just smile and agree with everyone for the sake of harmony. They are genuinely good at heart. They avoid conflict, offer support, and work hard to make others feel seen and valued. Yet, this kindness can lead to unintended consequences. Nice people often end up in situations where they are overburdened, misused, or manipulated, all because they can't say no or prioritize their own well-being. Take the story of Sarah, a kind-hearted woman who always put others before herself. Sarah loved being there for her friends, listening to their problems, offering her time and resources whenever needed. But in doing so, she often neglected her own emotional needs. When she faced a personal crisis, her friends, who had been the recipients of her kindness for years, weren't as quick to offer the same level of support. Sarah felt betrayed, but in the depths of her heart, she realized that by giving so much of herself, she had created a one-sided dynamic. She had lost sight of her own worth while continuously elevating others. This was the painful realization that being nice, in its purest form, isn't always the healthiest approach. The key here is that nice doesn't mean weak, and it doesn't mean needing to be liked at all costs. In fact, the most well-balanced nice people learn to cultivate their kindness with strong boundaries and self-respect. Being nice is about being authentic, but it also means having the wisdom to protect your own energy. Nice people often struggle to understand that it's okay to prioritize their own needs. They don't have to sacrifice themselves just to keep the peace or earn approval. In the next sections, we'll dive into why nice people often find themselves in relationships that drain them, and how they can find a path to true fulfillment without losing themselves in the process. But first, it's crucial to acknowledge that niceness, when practiced with mindfulness, is one of the most beautiful traits someone can possess. It just needs to be balanced with self-awareness and self-love. Anthony Hopkins' take on motivation and loneliness, building on the idea that being nice doesn't always lead to the fulfillment or appreciation one deserves. We turn to the wisdom of Anthony Hopkins, an icon whose reflections on life and loneliness offer deep insights for anyone feeling isolated. Hopkins, known for his mastery in acting and his inspiring life story, has often spoken about the importance of self-awareness and the struggles of loneliness, even for those surrounded by people. His journey shows us that despite external success and recognition, loneliness can still creep in, especially for those who, like nice people, prioritize others over themselves. Anthony Hopkins has faced his own battles with loneliness and personal growth. Raised in a strict environment, he learned early that the world can be a harsh place. Yet, through years of hard work and introspection, he discovered a simple yet profound truth. True happiness starts from within. As a successful actor, Hopkins has played some of the most complex characters, but in his personal life, he admits to a journey of self-discovery. A journey that involved overcoming feelings of inadequacy and loneliness, despite his fame. One of the most impactful things Hopkins teaches us is that loneliness doesn't always stem from being physically alone. In fact, he has spoken about feeling the deepest sense of isolation during periods of intense public life. His vulnerability as an artist has led him to realize that many people, especially those who are nice or empathetic, often feel disconnected, even when surrounded by others. This is particularly true when they sacrifice their own emotional needs to please or care for others. In one of his famous speeches, Hopkins encourages people to take time for themselves, to face their emotions head-on, and to understand that solitude can be a powerful tool for personal growth. Hopkins often reflects on how his greatest struggles came from trying to please others rather than embracing who he truly was. He was once driven by the desire for external validation, something that many nice people can relate to. They often seek approval through their actions, hoping that by being kind, others will return the favor. However, as Hopkins wisely points out, the most important approval is your own. In his speeches, he advises people to step back, find peace within, and allow solitude to be a space of healing and reflection, rather than viewing it as a negative condition. One powerful story from his life reflects this transformation. Hopkins recalls a moment when he realized that, despite all the applause and accolades he had received, he was still missing something profound, the ability to truly be at peace with himself. There was a time when he felt like an empty vessel, constantly seeking validation from others, yet never feeling complete. But through years of self-reflection, he understood that being true to oneself is the ultimate form of freedom. This epiphany not only helped him grow as an artist but also as a person. It was in this solitude, this time of reflection, that he learned how to nurture himself and find happiness that wasn't tied to the approval of others. For nice people, this message is powerful. It's a reminder that you don't have to lose yourself to be loved by others. In fact, embracing your own journey of self-fulfillment can actually bring more genuine connections into your life. Just as Anthony Hopkins found peace within himself, nice people can learn to balance kindness with self-respect and create the meaningful relationships they deserve. It's about being kind to others, yes, but most importantly, being kind to yourself. The challenges faced by nice people in relationships. Building on Anthony Hopkins' message of self-awareness and self-love, it's time to look at the specific challenges nice people face when it comes to relationships. For those who define themselves by kindness, empathy, and generosity, the road to healthy relationships can be paved with unexpected hurdles. While their hearts are full of care, their interactions with others often leave them feeling drained, taken advantage of, or unappreciated. Imagine this. You've been in a relationship for years, giving your all, whether it's emotionally, physically, or mentally. You're the one who listens attentively, who makes sure the other person's needs are met, and who puts your own desires aside for the sake of harmony. But one day you realize something. The effort you're putting in isn't being reciprocated. You're constantly there for them, but they're nowhere to be found when you need support. You start questioning, why does it always feel like I'm the one doing all the giving? This is the dilemma that many nice people face. How to be loved, respected, and appreciated without losing themselves in the process. Nice people tend to prioritize the happiness of others over their own. This can create an emotional imbalance, where they're more concerned with making others feel good than taking care of their own needs. Over time, this self-sacrifice can lead to resentment and burnout. The kindness they show is often met with indifference or, worse, exploitation. They're the person who never says no, who always drops everything for others, and who has a hard time setting boundaries. In many cases, their relationships become one-sided, with them constantly giving and the other person taking without much consideration for their well-being. Take Sarah, for example. She had a partner who seemed to love her, But over time, she began to notice a troubling pattern. Sarah would stay up late comforting her partner after a rough day at work. But when she herself had a hard day, her partner was nowhere to be found. She would try to discuss it, but her partner's responses were always filled with excuses. The more Sarah gave, the more her partner expected, and yet, her emotional needs were never met. Eventually, Sarah began to feel drained, disconnected, and invisible in the relationship. She realized she had become so focused on her partner's happiness that she had neglected her own. The emotional toll of this imbalance was taking a heavy toll on her sense of self-worth. This scenario isn't uncommon among nice people. The problem isn't that they lack love or care. They often love too much without considering the cost to themselves. They believe that love means always being there, always being selfless. But what they don't realize is that healthy relationships require mutual care and respect. Love is not about losing yourself for the sake of another. It's about giving and receiving in equal measure. This is one of the biggest struggles that nice people face. They often don't know how to demand what they deserve because they've spent so much time pleasing others. In relationships, the challenge for nice people is finding the balance between kindness and self-preservation. The more they learn to set boundaries and communicate their needs, the healthier their relationships will be. It's not about being selfish or withdrawing affection. It's about creating a space where both parties feel valued and heard. By taking care of themselves, nice people can be the best versions of themselves in their relationships, offering love without losing their sense of identity. Ultimately, the key to overcoming these challenges is self-awareness. Nice people need to recognize that their needs are just as important as those of the people they care about. Only by embracing their own worth and practicing healthy boundaries can they create the loving, balanced relationships they truly deserve. Why nice people tend to be alone. Psychological and social factors. As we reflect on the challenges nice people face in relationships, we begin to uncover deeper psychological and social factors that often contribute to their loneliness. These factors, many of which are unconscious, can make it feel like kindness is a burden rather than a gift. As nice people continue to give without receiving, they may find themselves trapped in a cycle of emotional isolation. It's not that they don't try to connect with others. It's that their internal struggles and societal conditioning make meaningful connections harder to achieve. At the heart of this phenomenon is vulnerability. Nice people often wear their hearts on their sleeves, believing that their empathy and willingness to put others first will create bonds. But vulnerability can be a double-edged sword. While it is the foundation for deep, meaningful relationships, it also leaves them open to being hurt. The more they invest emotionally without receiving equal care, the more they risk emotional burnout and disillusionment. Over time, nice people may start to fear that the deeper they love, the more likely they are to be abandoned or betrayed. Take the example of John, a man who always went above and beyond for his friends. He'd listen to their problems for hours, offer his time, and put their needs above his own. Yet, when it came to him needing support, he found himself alone. Over time, John began to believe that people only cared about him when he could do something for them. His kindness, which initially brought people closer, ended up isolating him. He didn't want to seem selfish, so he avoided opening up about his own struggles. This unspoken fear of vulnerability kept him distant from others, pushing him further into isolation. In his quest to help, John forgot that relationships require mutual give and take, not just one-sided care. Another significant factor at play is self-sabotage. Nice people, especially those who have been conditioned to seek approval, may unconsciously push people away or keep themselves in toxic situations. They often put others' needs before their own, fearing that if they set boundaries or stand up for themselves, they will lose the love and respect of those around them. This fear can manifest in different ways, whether by staying in unfulfilling relationships, avoiding conflict at all costs, or letting their own needs be overlooked. The result? They find themselves in cycles of emotional neglect, where their kindness is taken for granted, and they're left wondering why they feel alone despite being surrounded by people. Nice people also tend to struggle with societal expectations that can make them feel out of place or misunderstood. In a world that often values assertiveness, confidence, and winning, niceness can sometimes be seen as a weakness. The belief that one must be tough or self-serving to succeed can make nice people feel like outsiders. They may even start to question if their kindness has any place in a world that rewards power and competition. Over time, this can lead to a sense of loneliness, as they may feel their authentic self doesn't align with societal norms. The key to overcoming these psychological and social factors is awareness. Nice people must recognize their tendency to self-sabotage and understand that being kind doesn't mean sacrificing their well-being. It's about finding the courage to be vulnerable while also setting boundaries that protect their emotional health. It's about realizing that their worth isn't defined by how much they give to others, but by who they are as individuals. Once they embrace this truth, nice people can break free from the cycle of loneliness and begin to build more balanced, fulfilling relationships. Ones where their kindness is truly valued and reciprocated. Turning loneliness into personal growth. Advice from Anthony Hopkins building upon the psychological and social barriers that often lead nice people to feel isolated. We now shift focus to a powerful message from Anthony Hopkins. Loneliness, rather than being a curse, can be transformed into an opportunity for personal growth. Hopkins himself, despite his success and acclaim, has spoken openly about the challenges of loneliness. However, instead of seeing it as something to be feared, he encourages people to embrace solitude as a space for self-discovery, healing, and renewal. This advice resonates deeply, especially for nice people who often feel disconnected despite their best efforts to connect with others. Hopkins, in his wisdom, suggests that instead of running away from loneliness or masking it with distractions, one should lean into it. Solitude, when approached with the right mindset, can be incredibly powerful. It's in these moments of being alone that we have the opportunity to truly connect with ourselves, reflect on our past experiences, and understand our deeper desires. For nice people who often give so much to others, this space of stillness can be a chance to reconnect with their own values and needs. Take Emma, a kind woman who always tried to please everyone around her. She found herself constantly exhausted, giving more than she had in relationships and friendships, yet feeling empty and unappreciated. One evening, after another draining social event, Emma decided to spend an entire weekend alone. At first, she felt uncomfortable, unused to the silence and the absence of people. But as the hours passed, she began to feel a sense of clarity. She found herself journaling, reflecting on the patterns in her relationships, and realizing that she had been neglecting her own dreams and desires in favor of others. This weekend of solitude didn't make her feel more alone. It made her feel more connected to her true self. She finally acknowledged that in order to be truly happy, she needed to start putting herself first. Hopkins would agree with this transformation. He emphasizes that embracing solitude can be a catalyst for self-realization. When you're alone, you're not just physically separated from others. You're also given the mental space to reflect, heal, and grow. This process helps you become more in tune with who you really are and what you truly want from life. It's an opportunity to challenge the beliefs and behaviors that may have contributed to your loneliness in the first place. Rather than viewing it as a time of absence, you begin to see it as a space of abundance, a space where you can become whole again. Moreover, Hopkins teaches us that solitude is not just about being alone. It's about becoming comfortable with who you are. It's about accepting your flaws, your quirks, and your imperfections without feeling the need for external validation. For nice people who often feel defined by how much they give, this can be an incredibly liberating realization. They don't need to earn love or approval through self-sacrifice. They can simply be enough as they are. Through solitude, nice people can learn to nurture themselves emotionally and mentally. They can begin to practice self-care, focus on personal passions, and develop a sense of independence that doesn't rely on others to feel fulfilled. As Hopkins would say, the relationship you have with yourself is the most important one. Once nice people realize this, their loneliness can transform into a powerful foundation for self-growth, ultimately leading them to more meaningful and balanced relationships in the future. By embracing loneliness, as Hopkins advises, nice people can not only find peace and understanding within themselves but also create a more authentic and joyful life. Finding balance and building meaningful connections after learning to embrace loneliness as a path to personal growth. The next step for nice people is discovering how to find balance in their lives and build meaningful connections that align with their authentic selves. As Anthony Hopkins suggests, true fulfillment doesn't come from constantly pleasing others or sacrificing your own needs. It comes from fostering relationships where both parties give and receive with respect and understanding. But for nice people, this journey toward balance can feel like a delicate tightrope walk, one that requires both courage and self-awareness. Imagine Olivia, a compassionate woman who always made time for her friends, family, and coworkers, often putting their needs before her own. She was the go-to person for advice, the shoulder to lean on, and the one everyone could count on. But over time, she began to feel drained. She realized that, while she was giving endlessly, her relationships felt shallow. Few ever asked her how she was doing or if she needed support. She found herself feeling emotionally empty despite being surrounded by people. Olivia knew she couldn't keep going down this path. She decided it was time to set boundaries and prioritize her own well-being. Finding balance, as Olivia discovered, is about recognizing that your needs matter just as much as those of others. For nice people, the challenge lies in overcoming the fear that setting boundaries will push people away. In truth, healthy boundaries actually strengthen relationships because they create mutual respect. When nice people learn to say no when necessary, they are not being selfish, they are protecting their own emotional health. By doing so, they also teach others to value their time, energy, and feelings. Another crucial aspect of building meaningful connections is understanding that quality is more important than quantity. Nice people often have a wide circle of acquaintances, but true connection comes from deep, authentic relationships. When Olivia started focusing on the people who truly cared about her, she found that the relationships she had been pouring all her energy into weren't as genuine as she had once believed. By letting go of connections that weren't serving her, she made room for deeper, more fulfilling ones. This is where self-love plays a pivotal role. When nice people begin to see their worth and embrace their own uniqueness, they stop seeking external validation and approval. Instead, they attract relationships that are based on mutual respect, trust, and shared values. Just as Hopkins has spoken about the importance of self-acceptance as the foundation for all meaningful relationships, nice people who prioritize self-love create an environment where they are loved for who they truly are, not for what they give. The process of finding balance is ongoing. It's about learning to let go of guilt when you choose to focus on your own needs and finding joy in nurturing yourself. As you set boundaries and focus on quality relationships, you begin to understand that being kind to yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary for your emotional and mental well-being. Ultimately, nice people can build the connections they long for, but it requires a conscious effort to change the way they view themselves and their worth. By striking a balance between giving to others and giving to themselves, they create relationships that are not only meaningful but also sustainable. And in doing so, they discover that the most fulfilling connections come when they stop sacrificing who they are for the sake of others and instead focus on building relationships rooted in authenticity and mutual respect. If you found yourself nodding along and feeling inspired by this message, don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from you. How do you balance kindness with self-love? Your opinions matter, and we'd love to know how this video resonated with you. Also, if you enjoyed this one, make sure to subscribe and check out our other videos that dive deep into personal growth, emotional wellness, and powerful life lessons. Join the journey with us. We've got so much more to share, and we can't wait to have you be part of our community.